My sister Claire always wanted what I had. It started with my dolls, then my clothes, and eventually my husband, Ethan. I used to think her envy was a twisted form of admiration, a shadow that followed my sunshine. I never imagined that shadow would one day engulf my entire life, leaving me in darkness. The discovery wasn't dramatic, no screaming match in a rainstorm. It was a single, crisp hotel invoice I found tucked away in Ethan's briefcase. The name next to his wasn't a stranger's. It was Claire's. When I confronted him, his silence was a confession. His downcast eyes the final nail in the coffin of our marriage. A storm of betrayal and heartbreak raged inside me, but on the outside I was a placid lake. No tears, no accusations hurled across the living room. That night, as Ethan slept soundly in the guest room, assuming I was just processing, I was already planning. My grief was a cold, hard stone in my chest, and I decided to use it to build something new, something that would give me justice. The first call I made the next morning wasn't to a friend for comfort. It was to a divorce lawyer. I filed silently, without a word to Ethan or my family, while he and Claire were sneaking around, whispering sweet nothings. I was whispering with my lawyer and a forensic accountant. My marriage was over, but my name was still entangled with Ethan S. in a web of finances I'd always trusted him to manage. He handled the investments, the taxes, the big picture stuff. He'd always said, I was too busy with my own career to question it. Now, that trust felt like the height of foolishness. I began digging, night after night, fueled by black coffee and a burning need for the truth. I sifted through years of bank statements, loan agreements, and investment portfolios. It didn't take long to find the discrepancies. Small ones at first, then larger, more audacious ones. A pattern began to emerge, a dark and intricate tapestry of deceit. Ethan had been using my name, my credit, my very identity to secure loans for risky, speculative investments. These weren't joint decisions. They were secrets he buried under piles of paperwork signed without a second thought. Just routine stuff, honey, he would say, sliding a pen into my hand. Each signature ID given in trust was a link in the chain he was using to bind me to his fraudulent schemes. He was building a house of cards, and he'd made me the foundation without my knowledge. The money trail was a complex maze, but I followed every twisted path. It led from shell corporations to offshore accounts, and at the end of it all, I could see his endgame to build a new life funded by a fortune he was stealing from under my nose. Our divorce proceedings were surprisingly amicable, at least on the surface. Ethan, probably relieved I wasn't making a scene about the affair, was generous. You can have the house, he'd said, a magnanimous smile on his face. I'll take the investment properties and the business shares. He thought he was outsmarting me, offloading the mortgage-heavy family home while he kept the assets that were generating real wealth. I agreed to everything. I nodded, I signed, and I smiled back, letting him think he was winning. What he didn't know was that I'd already spent weeks with federal investigators, handing over every piece of evidence I'd uncovered. The very assets he was so eager to claim were the cornerstones of his illegal empire, each one a ticking time bomb I had already reported and documented. I let him walk right into the trap he had set for me. Months later, Claire and Ethan were a public couple. They had a new apartment, a new car, a new life built on the smouldering ruins of mine. They even had the audacity to announce they were expecting a child. My family, caught in the middle, urged me to move on, to find forgiveness. But forgiveness wasn't on my agenda. Justice was final act was set for family court during the child support hearing for our 2 children. Ethan and Claire stood before the judge, painting a picture of financial hardship. They claimed they could barely afford their own expenses, let alone provide adequate support. They pointed fingers at me, suggesting my unreasonable demands were ruining them. Ethan had the nerve to say I had left him with nothing but debt-ridden properties. Claire, her belly swollen with their new beginning, looked at me with pity, as if I were the one to be pitied. That was my cue. I stood up, not as a scorned wife, but as a woman who had been systematically defrauded. My voice was steady as I addressed the judge. "Your Honor," I began, "their financial ruin has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with the fact that for the past 5 years, Ethan has been using my identity to fraudulently secure millions of dollars in loans." A gasp rippled through the courtroom. I laid out the facts one by one, presenting the meticulously organized evidence my forensic accountant and I had compiled. I showed the loan applications with my forged signature, the records of money being funneled into accounts Claire had access to, and the reports I had already filed with the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network. I explained how the very assets Ethan had so graciously taken in the divorce were tied to these fraudulent loans. His new life wasn't just built on a lie, it was built on a series of well-documented felonies. I looked at Ethan, his face pale and slack with shock. I looked at Claire, whose expression of pity had morphed into one of pure terror. "I will not finance their new life," I stated, my voice ringing with clarity and conviction. "Their affair was a betrayal. Their financial crimes are a matter for the justice system." The truth detonated in that quiet courtroom. The life they had built together, their perfect little world, was revealed for what it was: a sham. A house of cards constructed on a foundation of documented fraud, and I was the one who held the final, damning receipt. They didn't just lose their money that day, they lost their future, their freedom, and their carefully constructed lies, all in the face of a truth they never saw coming. Thank you for watching. If you were captivated by this story of calculated revenge, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more tales of justice being served. Don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss an update.